Mm, I think they're live, yeah.
Live,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Malvika Rajkumar, and today with me I have my colleague Shanotra Kumar.
Hi.
We are going to talk about the right to education for children in India today, and we'll be covering various aspects starting from admission into schools to free meals for children to what are the different types of schools that actually provide such free education, etc. So, to start off with, when we look at what right to education is, it is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21A of the Constitution of India. Now, this right is guaranteed also through a statute, and this is known as the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009. Now, there have been many amendments or many updates that have happened throughout the years, but all that we're covering today is encompasses all the updated amendments and laws till date. So, every child between the ages of 6 to 14 has a right to get free and compulsory education from their schools from classes 1 to 8. Now, there is no discrimination on the basis of who the child is, meaning, like, if the child belongs to a disadvantaged group, like, for example, children with disabilities or children belonging to scheduled caste or scheduled tribes, the law categorizes all these children under the category known as disadvantaged groups, and even these children have a right to free and compulsory education in India. So no child is denied this right in India, and from the ages of 6 to 14 they can attend school and learn. Now, parents of such children don't have to pay any fees, charges, or expenses to help their children receive elementary education, meaning from classes 1 to class 8. And every child that is enrolled for elementary education in a school gets nutritious meals, gets to go to school and learn a curriculum which is devised keeping children in mind. Now, let's look at what happens during the admission process. Now, when you actually go to enroll your child in a school, the first thing that you must be wondering is, where do I go? Now, you can approach the neighborhood schools, which are nearby schools within your neighborhood, and the law describes what neighborhood schools are. They say that the law says that neighborhood schools are those schools which are 1 kilometer from the child's neighborhood. That is, if the child is between in the class of 1 to 5, to class 5 basically, and it is of a distance of 3 kilometers from the child's neighborhood if the child is in class 6 to class 8. Now, the law does not restrict the education of the child just to neighborhood schools. The child is obviously, and the parents are free to choose the school the child wants to study in and can go further away. But at the same time, it's important to note that the school in which the child is enrolled plays a major criteria in under this law. Basically, the criteria resulting in whether the child actually gets free education there. So it's important to note that the child can only get free education in schools which are controlled or substantially funded by a government, etc., or local authority. Now, Shanotra will describe this more in detail later. But the most important thing is that if a child is admitted to a school other than those schools given under the law, the parents cannot make a claim for reimbursement of the expenses of the child's education. This is a very important point to note. But however, let's say that it is a child belonging to a disadvantaged category that's actually being enrolled in a school which is far away, those parents of those children can definitely ask for reimbursement because 25% reserve admissions are there for disadvantaged groups in every school. Now, when it comes to filling the admission forms, it mostly depends on your state. We have some examples of state based forms on our website, like Punjab forms, Maharashtra forms, and you can approach the neighborhood school and also ask for a form, and it will contain basic information like your personal details, address, and you can also give a list maximum of 5 schools uh, for your preferences where you want your child to be enrolled. And no school is allowed to charge any sort of capitation fee or anything like that at the time of admission. Now, another important aspect is that no child can be screened at the time of admission. That means that the school cannot subject the child or the parents to any form of screening procedure which may involve a test or an interview or an interview of the parents or the child separately. None of this is allowed. And if the schools do this, then the schools may be fined up to 25,000 rupees in the first contravention. And if they continue to do this, this may be extended to 50,000 rupees. And during the admission process, identification documents will also be asked. Some of the documents you can submit are Aadhaar, ration card, Anganwadi record, birth certificate, and all the details of how to get these cards are also there on our website. But it's important to note that such a filled form can also be submitted to your neighborhood school. Now, that's where you submit your filled form. And when it comes to the discussion around school fees and expenses, please remember that children can get admission in schools without paying any fees or expenses. That is the one of the most important criteria under this law. Now, Shunotra will take you through the different categories of schools.
So, what the RTE is, I'm sorry, I think there's some echo. Okay. So yeah, what the RTE law does is basically it puts schools in 5 different categories. So first you have schools that are either established, owned, or controlled by the government or a local authority. Then you have aided schools. Then you have special category schools, which are schools like Kendra Vidyalaya, Sainik schools, and so on, that are set up by the government under a separate notification. Then you have private schools, which are also called unaided schools under the law. And then you have the minority schools, schools belonging to minority groups in India. So basically what the RTE law does is it only applies to the first 4 categories of schools. Minority schools are actually exempted under this law. Now, in the first category, that is the schools that are established, owned, or controlled by a government or a local authority. These schools are required by law to provide free and compulsory education to all students that it admits. As Malvika went through the admission criteria, all students who are admitted are supposed to be given free and compulsory education in such schools. The second category, that is aided schools, these are schools that were actually privately set up but are receiving funding from the government or a local authority, either in full or in part. Now, in these schools, free and compulsory education is provided to a minimum of 25% students or children that are basically from disadvantaged groups, as Malvika explained before. Now, the third and the fourth category, that is private schools and that are completely unaided schools, and also special schools like Kendra Vidyalaya and Sainik schools. These also are required to reserve 25% of their seats and offer free and compulsory education to students from disadvantaged groups. Now, these are the categories of schools that are covered by the RTE law. One important thing that is to be noted is that the RTE law specifically states that no child can be denied admission to a school. Now, it does not matter if the school year is already started, or even if the child is applying in the middle of the year. They cannot be denied admission on this ground, like saying that they were late in asking for admission. Now, say if a child is admitted 6 months after the academic session has already started, it doesn't mean that the education, like the person will be asked to wait till, like the child will be asked to wait till the end of the academic year. They must be given admission in the middle of the year, and also provided with special training to ensure that these children are integrated into the school system. Now, moreover, if this child, as I said, who's admitted late, it doesn't mean that like they're going to be, like their education is going to delay as well. So say for example, a 6-year-old, like no, so as Malika earlier explained, you get like free and compulsory education if you're between 6 and 14 years of age. If you're admitted late, that does not mean they will keep you that late in school also. It is the school's responsibility to ensure that you are given all special training that you need in order to make up and come to the level of other students, and ensure that you complete your elementary education. Even if it exceeds beyond 14 years, that does not mean that you will be kicked out immediately after 14. Now, this law, another important provision of this law is that students cannot be expelled from school before they complete their elementary education. As elementary education is a fundamental right guaranteed under the Constitution, they cannot, there are provisions for detaining you or holding you back, but there are no the law clearly says that these children cannot be expelled from before they complete their elementary education. Now, the next thing that the RTE law clearly prohibits is inflicting of physical punishment or mental harassment upon students. Now, physical harassment usually includes, like, it's also called corporal punishment, where it includes inflicting physical harm to children either by hitting, pulling their hair, slapping them, hitting them with any object. Like, you often hear that, students, like teachers throwing chalks or like dusters or hitting them with rulers. All of this comes under corporal punishment. That's physical punishment, and specifically banned, is prohibited under the law. It also prohibits mental harassment. Now, mental harassment might include mocking a child with regard to like their background or their caste or the occupation of their parents, or like basically just shaming the child on like not being able to improve his performance in school. All of this would be categorized under mental harassment, and it's strictly prohibited under the RTE law. Now, any person who inflicts such punishment on a child, any educator who does that, can face serious disciplinary action under the law. Now, Malvika will take you over some of the other provisions of the law that deal with curriculum and evaluation procedure. Malvika, you're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering about the curriculum and the evaluation procedure, well, the important thing to note is that the curriculum and the evaluation procedure is decided by the state government, and each state government has various authorities that have laid down different procedures. Now, an example of this is the State Council of Educational Research and Training, or called CERT, or other academic institutions of the state. Now, the Delhi CERT and the Uttarakhand CERT specifically would be applicable for the respective states. So that's where you have to look at if you want to read a little more on curriculum and evaluation. But again, the law specifies certain points to keep in mind while deciding the curriculum and evaluation procedures for students. One of that is that the curriculum must be comprehensive, and continuous evaluation of the child's understanding of knowledge while within the school is important. And the focus of the curriculum and evaluation procedure should be on the all-round development of the child. And one of the main criteria is that the medium of instruction should be in the child's mother tongue. So if the child is studying in Karnataka, then the curriculum would also be in Kannada for Kannada-based schools. Now, another important aspect to look at is what are the responsibilities of the schools. It's important for you to understand what this is so that you can assert your rights. So the law lays down certain norms and standards that have to be followed by the schools. First of all is that there has to be a certain pupil teacher ratio, meaning the student teacher ratio, and it has to be maintained 30:1 for the first class, meaning 30 students for one teacher, for the first class to the fifth class, and 35 students to one teacher from sixth class to eighth class. Apart from this, there are certain things which also need to be provided by schools, which is one classroom for every teacher, separate toilets for boys and girls, a barrier-free access to move around, a playground, safe and adequate drinking water, a kitchen where the midday meals can be prepared according to the midday meal scheme, which Shanotra will take you through in a bit. And teachers should also have a minimum of 45 working hours per week, including the preparation hours. Now, all these are guidelines that have been given to many of the states, and they've all been implementing it. Now, moving on to an important aspect when it comes to responsibilities of schools. All schools are run by the government, or it may be substantially aided by it. They have to mandatorily form a school management committee. Now, the school management committee comprises of elected representatives or local authorities, but it also comprises of parents, which comprise, and totally all these individuals together form the school management committee. Now, the main function of the school management committee is to devise and monitor the working of the school, preparation of development plans of the school, utilization for the grants given by the government for compulsory and free education, etc. But when it comes to minority schools, as Shanotra had mentioned before, the SMC's role is very limited. They only perform advisory functions. So the school management committee also has a responsibility to look after the aspects of providing free meals. That is also a very important function that they have. And it is also one of the committees you can approach if you have any issues, because every school which has to provide free and compulsory education is mandated to set up such a committee. So now Shanotra will take you through what the detention policy is in schools and regarding free meals for children.
So, interesting thing to note about detention policy is that when the law was made, it clearly specified that no child could be detained or held back or failed in his duration, like while attending elementary school. But last year, the RTA Act was amended and a provision was added that said that children of fifth class and eighth class who do not clear in re-examination can be held back. Now, to spell out this provision, if a child from, say, as I said, from either the fifth class or the eighth class fails an examination that was conducted, they should be provided an additional opportunity of reappearing for that exam. Now, within 2 months from when the results came out. If they fail this re-examination, only then can they be held back in the same year. Now, the RT law also provides for something called as an age-appropriate schooling. Now, what this means is that a child who is older than 6 years or who has never been to school or who was in school but dropped out will be admitted into a class that is appropriate to his or her age. For example, say if a 12-year-old who's never been to school has taken admission, he will be either put in class 6 or 7 and not be made to start from class 1. Now, the law provides that such children should get extra help, and the school should make provisions to ensure that they catch up with all students their age. Basically, so these children are supposed to receive free schooling, as I had also touched upon this aspect a little earlier. Now, just because you started off late or you are held back because of the detention policy or you were dropped out and then you started, if you are not in the age group as the other, if the child is not in the age group as the other children in their class, it does not mean that their education will stop at 14, because the law says that only kids from 6 to 14 are going to get a free admission. The point of the entire RTE law, the fundamental right that guarantees, is free and compulsory elementary education. So if it has to go on even beyond 14, but the purpose of the law is to ensure that every child gets elementary education. Now, Malvik, I'll walk you over certain points on disadvantaged children and qualification of teachers.
So, as I had mentioned earlier in the beginning, the right to free and compulsory education extends to all children, regardless of any reason. And one of the main distinctive terms used in the law is the term disadvantaged groups. Now, the law also gives certain indication to what these groups can be. One is children with HIV. This was the Supreme Court of India had recently ordered that state governments should consider adding children living with or affected by HIV to disadvantaged groups. And later, the ministry also did the same through a notification on their website. But the important aspect here is that the school management committee and the teachers have to particularly keep in mind that a proportion of the students in the school have to be disadvantaged groups. That is 25% of the class size. Minimum has to be falling within a disadvantaged group. Now, apart from children with HIV, children belonging to scheduled castes or scheduled tribes also can fall under the group. Now, for example, the state of Haryana provides for a reservation of 5% of seats out of the 25% admissions for scheduled castes. Similarly, the state of Karnataka also has 7.5 and 1.5% seats for economically weaker sections reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, respectively. Now, apart from this, children with disabilities, including locomotor disabilities, etc., all of them also have a chance to get free and compulsory education under this new law. This is also read in consonance with another law known as the Rights of Persons with Disability Act that also gives certain educational rights in that law. Two of the points which I'm going to mention are mentioned in the Disability Law of 2016. That is, the child can get free education till the age of 18. And secondly, that the child can get special books and equipment that the child needs from the government to learn. Now, apart from this, the government also has to take special steps to make sure that children with disabilities get a good and holistic education. One of them being provision for safe transport to enable them to attend school and complete elementary education. Secondly, materials for special learning and educational support, as I mentioned. This may be in the form of any special trainings or special teachers that actually get involved. And thirdly, provision of scholarships, part-time classes, informal education, and steps to make exams easier for children with disabilities. Now, there's also a provision where there could be home tutoring, where a child with 80% disability or two or more disabilities can choose to be educated at home. Now, all these details will also come within your admission form, so please make sure that you fill everything there. Now, regarding the qualification of teachers, you must be wondering how they actually get qualified. The National Council for Teacher Education prescribes a qualification for teachers. It is one of the highest authorities when it comes to regulating and managing the profession of teachers. Apart from that, one of the essential qualifications for a person to be eligible to be appointed as teacher in any school is that the person has to pass the teacher eligibility test or TET, which is conducted in each state by the respective state government. Now, there are certain criteria that are given under the RTE law, which is important. One is that teachers between the classes, teachers that want to teach between the class of 1 to 5 should have two qualifications. One is that they should have a senior secondary with at least, they should have passed senior secondary with at least 50% marks and should have a 2-year diploma in elementary education, or they must have 4-year bachelor in elementary education or a 2-year diploma in education. This may also be special education. Teachers between the classes of 6 to 8 also require certain qualifications. One of those which are BA or BSc degree and a 2-year diploma course in elementary education, or the teacher can have a BA or BSc degree with at least 50% marks and 1-year bachelor in education or 1-year BEd, which may also be in special education. Apart from that, the teacher can also have a senior secondary, should have also passed senior secondary with at least 50% marks and a 4-year bachelor in elementary education or 4 years BA or BSc ED. Now, all of these criteria are important because you do definitely want to know the qualifications of the teachers that are teaching the children. So that is why I have mentioned all of this, and you can check more in detail in the National Council for Teacher Education website, which is available online. Now, Shanotra will take you through certain other aspects of the RTE law.
So one thing that's not specifically covered by the RTE Act but is there in Indian law is that all students between the ages of 6 and 14 who are enrolled to attend school, elementary school, studying between class 1 and class 8 are entitled to nutritious meals at no cost. Now, this is also commonly referred to as the midday meal scheme that is very widely advertised by state governments. Now, the funds for such meals are usually provided by the state government, but the implementation of the scheme and monitoring of the quality and preparation of this meal is overseen by the school management committee, something that Malvika had explained earlier. Now, these meals are to be provided in school premises on all days except for school holidays. If for any reason the midday meal is not provided to the child on any day, a food security allowance is given to the child. This is usually either in form of food grains or money by the state government to every child who missed a midday meal by the 15th of the next month. Now, this allowance is only given in cases where the school has failed to provide a meal and not in cases where the child is voluntarily not taking the meal. So this is one very key, this has been a very key aspect in getting children to enroll into schools and ensuring that they stay in schools for a very long, like for till they complete their elementary education. One last thing that I would like to touch upon is complaining and grievances. If like how do you go about complaining, and if you have any grievances under this law. So what you can do is that if you want to complain, file a complaint regarding like in any aspect of like of an education of a child, you can first start by approaching a local authority like the Gram Panchayat or a block education officer. Now, a block education officer is someone who is in charge of schools in a designated block that's given under the law. Now, you also have the option of approaching the NCPCR, that is the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, or state equivalent of it, that's the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that's available in every state. Now, these are commissions that are set up by the government that work for protection of children between 0 to 18 years age group. Now, they can be reached by any of their helpline numbers, either by email, either on their app, or you could even write to them by post. Now, all of these details on how to approach the NCPCR is given on our website, nyaya.org. You can go to the right to education topic. There you will find a section on complaining and grievances. All steps have been listed out in detail there. Then finally, since right to education is a fundamental right guaranteed under the Constitution, you also have the right to approach the court to seek specific remedies for the violation of this fundamental right. If you plan to do this, you should take the help of a lawyer because it's a very long and tedious process and you will need further legal help. We hope you found today's chat to be informative. If you have any more questions on the law on right to education, the topic has been explained on our website, nyaya.org. You can go on to categories, and on the first drop down itself, you'll see right to education. If you have a specific question on the law that you feel that we've not answered in the explanation, you can always go to the Ask Nyaya tab on our website, and we'll and leave your question there, and we'll get back to you soon. Stay safe and good night.